And we're live, pal. Welcome.
Right, brother.
We're live. Welcome to CCW Insider. This is our August 10th edition. We'll be having an amazing show. I'm with a very good friend of mine, Dan Arriola. Welcome to the show from the Happy Customer channel. He is one of the best people to talk to in terms of business, customer service, but also professional wrestling. He's a huge wrestling fan. So we are so excited to have him with us today. And we're going to be talking a lot of things. Okay, so we already have some people on the line. Welcome, Dan. How are you feeling?
I'm feeling great, man, and I am so glad that we got connected. Like I told you when we met, you scratched me where I itch. Number one is I attended one of your events at Unbranded and had a blast, but I did it, I think, the right way, where I took my team. So we did it as a corporate event, and man, we not only enjoyed the wonderful beer that Unbranded has, but just the event, right? It was just fun and entertainment, and there was something for everyone, right? Whether you're a casual fan, an old school hardcore guy like me, you want some drama and excitement, and you want some comedy, you guys at CCW had it all. So we were pumped to go to the event, and we had a lot of fun.
Awesome. I love it. I love to hear it. Right away, Andy comes out with a great t-shirt. To be the man, you got to beat the man, Dan. So the Nature Boy Ric Flair, 100% is on the podcast, on the Insider with us tonight. Yeah, I really appreciate that, Dan. Like, it's so cool that, you're a Miami guy. You're an institution, not just with the Happy Customer channel, but like you've lived here, you've been here. We'll talk more about the channel, but man, it's so cool that like Bash of the Brew has become part of that Miami institution, Miami culture. So we had to bring Dan on the show. So I love it. Woo! I love it. Sometimes I can't see the Facebook user. Half of the fun is
see what they got.
Dan, let's get right to it. Obviously, we're so excited to have you here. We love to talk about the Happy Customer channel. I was on there. Was it last week already?
Yeah.
We had a blast at the. I had a blast personally at the Happy Customer channel. That was us there. That was me cutting a promo, being a psychopath. But
great promo.
I have to ask you, man. Like, tell us a little bit about it. Like, tell us about Happy Customer.
Yeah, so it really the core of it is going out and finding interesting stories, right? So interesting stories, but really focusing on the customer. So we're in the customer service business, or we're in the outsourced customer service industry. And me, I am personally obsessed with just great service, right? And I think it can differentiate you from other brands, other companies, and so on and so forth. And so not only the service, but the experience. And so we are going out there and we're talking to people who we think get it right. And I experienced your show and just really felt that you guys, along with the folks at Unbranded, put together just a great event, right? Where it was fun, it was affordable. I think there was something for everyone. You can go at, like I said, a hardcore fan like me, or a guy who didn't know a whole lot about wrestling, or you can bring your child. But I think that you guys just sort of made it special for everyone, and that's tough to do, right? So long story short is we want to get out there and talk to people who are doing customer service the right way, but I just like interesting story and interesting people. So when you and I got connected, I was like, man, I got to have this guy on the show. We could probably do a separate just wrestling show, which maybe we'll do today.
100%.
Yeah, so that was sort of.
It's awesome. It's awesome to hear you say that through like the lens of a wrestling fan, because one of the things that we do here at CCW is we try to let's work on this show through the lens of the fans. Like, what do they want? Like what's a good time for the fans? It's not just about us, not just about, that and listening through the Happy Customer channel and everything that you guys do has really actually helped me in a lot of ways to kind of refocus and re-energize, some of those things. We had a crazy show Saturday, and it was one of those things where we were in a little bit of a situation because we were past standing room only. We were like so packed in there, and you start to see some of the people, man, they're getting hot, things are happening, and just finding ways to make sure that they're engaged in the show, but they're also having a great time, man. Before we go next, Eddie's asking me, I got to put it out there. If you were a pro wrestler, Dan, what would your signature move be?
It's really easy. Figure 4 leg lock. It's obviously Ric Flair's move, but it's a cool move that you can actually learn pretty quick. I remember I learned it when I was like 9 or 10 years old, and I was like, this is the cool. I cannot believe my body just did this. And by the way, it's super painful.
Yes.
So,
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the thing about the figure four does hurt, but also like the one thing that I guess it's kind of breaking the mystery. If you turn it around, it doesn't hurt the other person. It still hurts the same person. Yeah, as a kid, exactly. As the big on the figure four leg lock, man. Yeah. So wrestling, you love wrestling.
Yes.
I know we talked about Championship Wrestling in Florida. Tell me, what are some of the wrestling that inspires you, the wrestling that you love?
So it started with Gordon Soley and Graham and all those guys that started Florida Championship Wrestling. And, you and I talked about it in the podcast, which it was brilliant. It was a single shot, TV studio where you would have Gordon, you just like literally go like this. They'd do a promo and then the ring. And then sometimes it would just spill over. So got hooked. Florida Championship Wrestling, then sort of migrated just like everybody else in my era. I'm going to be 48, which was WWF, and then became WWE, WrestleMania, and so on. And then I was hooked. It like I said, it's something for everyone, right? It's almost like a Spanish novela at times, right? Where the drama is almost as fun as the actual action in the ring, right? And Piper's Pit and the promos that I've always thought that the promos that NWA and AWA at the time did were much better than the WWE until they got caught up. But those promos of Ric Flair and Dusty Rhodes and Kevin Sullivan and all those legends, they just had a sort of a pulse for the hardcore wrestling fan. And then like that next wave of young people that were just getting into the sport, like, what is this thing,
Yeah.
So,
well, real, like it felt really real. Like those like WWF, say what you will, there was a very much over the top thing going on, say what you will about it, where it was very real. Like you saw these, maybe they are a cult if you're talking about Kevin Sullivan, or maybe Roddy Piper does seem like a maniac or an insane person in those things. So yeah, man, always important, man. Always got a question coming in from Gary, and I think we already got the answer, but Dan, who is your wrestling GOAT? Who is the greatest of all time? And I'm going to change it. You need to give me. I gave you my Mount Rushmore, my top four. What is your who's number one, and then what's your Mount Rushmore?
All right, so number one, and it's a record that will never be broken, is 16-time world champion Ric Flair. There is no one better. His legacy lives on. He's probably more popular today than he was when he wrestled. So that's one. Mount Rushmore is real simple. We'll start with Flair. You got to go Dusty Rhodes, and I think that for me was some of that Florida Championship Wrestling crossover. You can't have a Mount Rushmore without Hogan. And then I'm going to throw someone that's actually not a wrestler, but he's so important to the sport that you got to put him on, is Vince McMahon.
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
And because he's also a heel, right? He was like I tell people, he's the greatest heel of all time. And you can't replicate that because he owns the business. I remember as a kid, it blew my mind. I was probably, I got into wrestling at 7 or 8. And I didn't realize until like I was 10 that Vince McMahon actually owned the WWF. Right. And he's the announcer. I'm like, this guy's the announcer and he's the owner. Like, I couldn't wrap my head around it. So you can't do a proper Mount Rushmore without Vince McMahon.
I think you're 100% right. I think Vince is the guy chiseling. I mean, him not personally, but whatever crew is in there chiseling that Mount Rushmore, I think he's in charge of it, right? I think you hit it right in the head. No one ever gives Vince McMahon his just due. And now with the exclamation point, we're both business guys, but you focus in on business. The exclamation point, Vince McMahon, in his later years, he does a huge merger. Tell me, what do you feel about that? Like in terms of an exclamation point in life, and what do you feel about the merger in general?
Excited about the merger. Look, Endeavor, they're good operators, right? Ari Emanuel and all those guys, they bought UFC for $4 billion. I bet you if you put the UFC back on the market right now, you're going to get double for it. Right?
Astronomical, yeah.
Yeah, and Vince is older, and if Stephanie doesn't want to take over the business, then what is he to do? And I think that they're letting him cash out his chips, even though he had plenty of them, and they are going to be good stewards of that business in the future. And I don't know about the crossover and the cross promotion. There's probably not a ton, right? I don't know if UFC and WWE guys are the same fan base, but that's okay. But these are great businesses. They're both great businesses. They can still grow. And that he's built such a big moat in the wrestling business that like, as long as they don't screw it up, they're going to do very well in their investment.
Right.
So I'm happy for him.
Well, I mean, and at this point, I think it's almost there's nothing that Vince McMahon can do to screw it up on his end, on the fact that he is, but will endeavor. I mean, and again, you hit it right in the head. They're amazing operators, and that's something too. Like, man, there's another great question in there, but like they're great operators, but I feel like this, and like you hit it on the head. This is that exclamation point. Yeah. I mean, how many businesses, and it seems to be very normal, where the founder, it's almost weird that the founder in Vince McMahon has stayed in full control for so long. He took the company in the early 2000s. He took the company public, and most of the times, look, Dan, you build businesses. I've built businesses, and the whole idea sometimes is that exit strategy. Right. As a founder, you have to look at Vince completely differently than you do some other businesses, wouldn't you say?
Yeah, I mean, the answer is to have a stronghold on the younger generation doesn't remember the territories. I was towards the end of the territory, so you had Florida Championship Wrestling, you had Texas Championship Wrestling, you had that Carolina bucket, you had the Minnesota AWA. So it was very territorial, and he was able to roll up all of those guys, right? Or just knock them out of business, then adopt this new technology called cable. He takes it to the next level. Then he goes pay-per-view, and then the rest is history. But in that process, they had so many hurdles to overcome. They had the steroid, phenomenon that the government went after, and sex scandals and whatever, right? And all along, man, that guy's maintained power, continued to grow the business, complete domination. So, and in that, and I don't think that there's another CEO in the world that makes himself the bad guy as one of the characters in his own business. Like, it's literally, there's never going to be a case study written like this again in business. Never. So he's, I hope he lives
Isn't
long.
It crazy?
He's great for 70-something years old, but there's a lot left in Vince.
Isn't it crazy? Because I've had, of course, like, when you talk creative or whatever, everyone talks about this idea of this heel authority figure, and it never made sense to me, because it's like, I'm a bad guy and I hate you, but also buy your tickets, buy your merch, and support me, right? But Vince McMahon did it in a way in where, those houses were full while he portrayed himself as like the worst of the worst guys. It was incredible. I think, like exactly what you said, it is a very unique case study. And the thing is, I don't think it works in anyone else in the entire universe except, for a guy.
Doesn't work anywhere else. And you always wonder, like, how much of Vince McMahon is really the heel? Like, is that person the same? Like, I always forget, I'm like, who's the real guy there?
I think there's a lot. There's a lot of crossover.
Yeah, he would be like, when people ask you the question, who's one person in history that you could sit down with and you could give, Abe Lincoln, whatever. I'm like, no, I want to talk to Vince McMahon. That guy's fascinating to me.
Yeah. No, I think that's a you hit it right in the head. More reason why he should be in the Mount Rushmore. We have a question from BZEP. Dan, I think maybe it's to both of us. What is a favorite wrestling moment that you've seen live, Dan?
Live. Well, I mean, look, as a kid, the first time I ever went to a wrestling match was, Piper was there. It was probably about a year before WrestleMania, and just the live version of it versus the one on TV just blew my mind, right? And so I was instantly hooked. Seen on TV. I mean, what you can't find it. I don't think you can find it on anywhere on the net unless you have the app. Was WrestleMania 1, which you had to watch close
closed circuit. Yeah.
Closed circuit. So I went to a place with my brother and my dad and watched it. And I was like, man, this just blew my mind. That
changed the game.
Do that. So that's my most, my greatest wrestling moment. I never watched it, but I saw replays of the Montreal Screwjob. That was pretty crazy, so you get a lot of those. Yeah.
So BZEP, that's obviously there's a million there, Dan. Obviously BZEP, I would say for me, it's crazy to say this, but because you think of all the moments that I've seen as a little kid, when Steve Austin, he wrestled Kevin Owens. I forget where I was, but we were hard camp side, and professional wrestling is professional wrestling. I felt like a little kid again when Steve Austin came out. He wrestled Kevin Owens, and then I felt like an even bigger kid the next night when Steve Austin came out and he stunned Vince McMahon. I think for the last time. I think that was last year's WrestleMania or something like that. Mm-hmm. That was the best moment, and it's crazy because as a man in my 30s, I would think it would be the time as me as a child, but it's those moments, BZEP. So. That's a great question. Oh, we have other questions. Yes, I really am Brazilian. I don't know if I should speak Portuguese. My Portuguese. We have a bunch of questions. You have Eddie asking if you ever work out leg days.
I never skip leg day. It's a sin. It's a sin.
It's an upper body business, brother.
It's an upper body. You're actually right. It's an upper body business. I never thought about that.
So great. Like, I love it. Let's move forward though too. Obviously, with CCW, with everything that we're doing, we're definitely going to get you in here. We're definitely going to show you some moves, Dan. I would expect to see Dan maybe as an evil manager, maybe he's a good guy. If you were to be a wrestler, Dan, would you be a heel? Would you be a baby face? Tell me what you would want.
100% heel. A guy that I loved was Bobby the Brain Heenan. First of all, he was a fantastic announcer, very underrated announcer. He should have probably done more announcing. But Bobby the Brain Heenan, he was a great heel. He was such a good heel that he became kind of lovable in a weird way.
Right.
And he could just sell a bit. And so I've always been fascinated by the managers. And you and I talked about it on the podcast. It's like, why aren't there more managers, right? And then you told me because they don't want to pay two guys. But, but the manager role, and I got to tell you, the announcer role, right, where you got guys like Mean Gene or Ross or Gordon Soley, all these guys, the way that they sell the match is so important. Probably the most important announcing job in any sport, more than baseball, more than the greats of Vince Scully and basketball and stuff. It's wrestling, right? It's an important part of the event.
100% lyrics and music, like Ricky's saying, Gordon Soley's the best ever. Could we be seeing Dan? This is from our friend Battleground Podcast, iHeartRadio, all that good stuff. Love you, Battle. He said, could we see Dan teaming up with Kobe Carter? He's already putting Dan out there as a manager. Let's see who. I would
love to team up with Cody.
Let's do it. Oh man, I'm getting business ideas in the chat here. This is crazy.
Let's go.
Let's talk more about the Happy Customer Channel. You've done 20 episodes. Tell me 2 or 3 besides the CCW episode. For people who might just want to be getting into it. Tell me 2 or 3 of your favorite episodes that you say maybe start with these, and then tell me also how things have changed from you have almost up to 20 episodes now. What has changed from day one to now?
So let's go with the start. I want to talk to people. I want to interview people that I want to talk to, right? So you and we just connected online because I want to know your story, right? And I think that, when the hell are you going to talk to somebody who runs a wrestling company, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's just fascinating. So I could have, I call it real estate developers or bankers on or whatever. And I got a feeling that the audience probably won't find that engaging. Your episode did very well for the exact reason that I just laid out, which is I want to talk to not only the guy who runs a wrestling company, but is also a wrestler, right? So,
right.
So that's two. I also try to invite people who have a large digital following, right? So that they are going to cross market, that we can help them cross market, that sort of stuff. But in it, no one has a business without customers, right? So we want to know how you treat your customers. How do you create raving fans? Things you've done right, things you've done wrong, lessons learned, that sort of stuff. Is going to be important to the show. And I think it's an underlying theme for all of our episodes.
Yeah, I think it was great. I love the Shark documentary guys.
Those guys are great.
They were so Miami.
They're so Miami, but it's a great Miami story, right? It's 2 young guys who were friends. And over the course of 6 years, they came across this story, which is shark fishing in South Beach in the 70s. Now, I'm a Miami guy. I never heard that story. But I wanted to learn about it, right? So I invited them on the show. Me curious, the first time that I spoke to them was on the show, right? So that's all real. That's not staged in any way. I don't know them personally, and I was fascinated by the story. So I like filmmaking. I like obviously great stories about Miami entertainment stuff. So the feedback for that was from the audience was I want to know how you make first of all how you make a documentary, but 2 is what's the story with this shark hunting story, and so the feedback's been really good.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I would recommend everybody make sure you get to that channel, subscribe to that channel, find the Happy Customer channel on Instagram as well, like YouTube, and just go and check check it out because everyone can use positive examples of reaching their customer, how to reach their customer, all that type of stuff. I think about it constantly. So I think it's something that, that everybody should jump into. What are some of your future plans, Dan? What are you thinking, like, moving forward with, not just with what you're doing and what you're doing in business?
So I'll start with the show, right? The show, real simple, is just continue to find guests that are super interesting. And we got a lineup later this month and through October that is going to be killer. A couple surprises, but it's going to be a lot of fun. I think people are really going to enjoy it. Two is even in our business, right, is, how can you take care of the customer? How can you grow and develop those relationships? More share of wallet of that customer. How can they spend more with you? It's easier to grow those accounts than go out and acquire new accounts and less expensive. So when thinking about the customer, those are the things that sort of I think of, and are my customers happy, right? That's you should be obsessed over it every single day. Are we delivering on what we promise? How can we get better? How can we be more of a valued partner? Those are sort of themes that we're always thinking about in the business.
100%. So Ricky, great question. The keys to success, what is your recipe to success, Dan?
So surround yourself with great people, right? In your personal life and in your business.
Yes.
And sometimes they go hand in hand. Just be a curious learner. Always be willing to learn, right? Just always reading, watching podcasts. Listen to podcasts, YouTube, whatever. We live in a world of just tons of data. So when I hear excuses about, education, I'm like, look, man, open up your browser and you can educate yourself on just about any subject. There's
100%
tons of information in there. And then I'll take it a step further. I think that people definitely in this country don't pay. You got to take care of yourself mentally and physically, right? If your headspace is in a bad space or you're physically in not a good space, there's not a whole lot you can do, right? If you're always feeling sluggish, if you're not sleeping well at night. So really take good care of yourself. Those are three just quick takeaways that, like, off the top of my head, that I live by every single day.
Two things, Dan, that you hit on perfectly is, when you're on an airplane, you got to put the mask on yourself first before you put it on your kid. Right. I look at my businesses like that sometimes, because sometimes I'm losing my mind. I'm thinking about a million things, but like, you got to take care of your mental, you have a certain capacity to take care of your mental stuff, and then you can take care of the people around you. I think sometimes as entrepreneurs, sometimes we run into that. And then the other thing was something that my dad and my mother would just hammer home is like, you are the company you keep. So, there are times when I'm hanging out with guys and I'm looking around, sometimes specifically in professional wrestling, you look around and you're like, oh, like, some of these guys are psychopaths. Oh, wait, does that also make me a psychopath? Like, it's one of those things. So I definitely, those are awesome, very good questions, man. Really, really, or good answers, So as the keys to success, how do you make your customers happy? Again, Ricky, keep them coming back, you need to know it. I know Ricky's just hitting you up hard, Dan. I know that, but it's funny too, because on the chat, there's a lot of guys talking about, you look like a manager, you look like a wrestler, Dan. I know you're 48. Would there be a time where you want to come in and do a match?
So I'll throw my resume out there. Would love to be a great heel. I'm a little too old to be wrestling. Definitely more of a manager or a color commentary guy on the sidelines would be wonderful. I know that sometimes you as a wrestler need a manager. I would be more than happy to walk you into the ring.
Awesome. Quickly, from Fernando, good question. Is your favorite podcast or your favorite book right now?
Favorite podcast? I got a bunch. Depends on what topic. I do like the Tim Ferriss podcast. I like the All In podcast. Those are more like business and life, health.
Tim Ferriss to me is the guy. Sometimes he's crazy, like he's self-experimental. But you have to be a little crazy, right, to be an entrepreneur. Like I love specifically like in the 4 Hour Body, where he's injecting, measurables.
Oh yeah, he's nuts. He's a human guinea pig.
He's freezing himself to lose crazy body fat and stuff. Like I love it,
Yeah. So humor in podcast for health. I like Rogan. I like a couple for sports. So those are some of the good podcasts that
and you spoke about it already. I think like one of the things is there's so much stuff out there. Like obviously you can go and look up how-tos on YouTube. Like they're like, it's crazy. And even in granite right now. So like with granite and marble and construction, someone will say like, we need to do X, Y, Z. And I'll immediately put it into YouTube because maybe it's something I don't know, but there will probably be guys who are explaining a certain, situation or a certain way something is done. Or for instance, like porcelain is a huge new countertop. So it's so crazy that there's already so many resources out there where years and years ago you would need to, I don't know, go to a library.
Go to a library, encyclopedia. Yeah. Now, one request I do have is you and I spoke about storytelling. And you have this text chain with Kevin Sullivan.
Yes,
And it would just be like if I could just be a fly on the wall.
No
conversation. Like just eavesdrop. I won't say a word. I'm still to this day scared and terrified of Kevin Sullivan, but just to listen of like brainstorming and how you go about it would be a dream.
You're on. Consider it done. You're on. So, future plans. We kind of talked about future plans.
Yeah, man.
I mean, like, tell me some of like just we're gonna actually first I'm going to talk about something. Friday we have Conquer Kissimmee, which is one of our best shows. It's going to be incredible. It's Conquer Kissimmee. It's in Old Town. It's every second Friday. We have an amazing card. The CCW Southeastern Champion Meadow will be on there. We have an incredible Cruiserweight Championship match. Jake St. Patrick will wrestle DMC. Cha-Cha Charlie will be wrestling Dirty Devin. You saw them going back and forth. We saw that Ariel Dominguez was this close at winning the CCW Heavyweight Championship, and then Hector Perfecto, they stopped him. So they're going to clash, and then you have Amber Nova and you have Lindsay Snow. And in a huge main event, in a street fight, you have former WWE star Danny Burch, now Martin Stone, wrestling Eddie Torres in this main event in a street fight. And let me tell you this, like, of course we run all age shows, but I would recommend if you have small children to leave before the main event because things might get a little bit dark. And guys, if you're listening to this right now, for the next 2 hours with the code HAPPY, you get 20% off of your tickets. For the last 3 months, we did have a sellout at the door at Conquer Kissimmee. So come early, use that code in the next 2 hours. I'm going to drop it at 2.5 hours till 5 o'clock. You guys get 20% off of Conquer Kissimmee on Friday. And also, I totally forgot, it's Bill Alfonso's birthday. It's Happy the birthday bash for Fonzie. So you got to be there. It's going to be incredible. It's the birthday bash every second Friday, Conquer Kissimmee. Fonzie will be there. But so we're going to sell a bunch of tickets right now, I'm sure.
Awesome.
And a bunch of people are fighting in the chat now. Like people want a piece of you, Dan.
Let's go, brother. Let's go. Bring it on.
One of them I know is Lou Spector. He is saying if you're bringing Kobe Carter, he's got something he's going to bring. And then Battle from Nashville from the Battleground podcast, huge podcast. Also, he said he'll want to get involved too. We'll all make it happen. We'll have a big battle royal in Nashville sometime. You come up to Nashville, but anyway, this has been great, Dan. Tell me a couple final takeaways that you want to let us know in the audience. How do we find the Happy Customer channel? And then I know we're going to be seeing you soon, whether it's as an announcer, as a manager, possibly in the ring across from Lou Spector at our future show. But tell me some of the takeaways that you want the fans at home to go home with.
Yeah, man, absolutely. So if you want to check out the podcast, just go to Happy Customer channel, wherever you download your podcast, Spotify, Apple, so on and so forth. And then we have a YouTube channel, and you can check us out on IG, Happy Customer channel. And then I would love to do something with you. Maybe I could be a masked person because I've always wanted to wear one of the masks, Mil Mascaras or Ray Manserio or one of these guys, right? So would love to do something. But yeah, man, absolutely. Yeah, and takeaways. Look, man, if you want to listen to a cool, fun podcast that we talk to very interesting guests, not the traditional sort of, CEO of this or what have you, and you want to really learn about, how to improve your customer service experience, then check out the channel. We post weekly, and then we'll post lots of digital shorts throughout the week, and so on. So we got some awesome guests coming up. Please check us out.
Dan, this is a blast. We'll have you on again. I'm going to see you at Bash. I'm going to see you here in Palmetto Beach. Everybody, you better be subscribing to the Happy Customer channel And you guys better be ready for.
Before we go, can you give me one last good promo to end the show? I love your promos.
Brother, you're putting me on the spot now.
Come on, brother.
Don't you dare understand. Don't you dare not subscribe to that happy customer channel. Oh, yeah.
You have been watching CCW Insider, produced by Minutes to Bell Time in association with Coastal Championship Wrestling.
I love it, man.
I love it. See you.
All right,
See you again.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you, fans.
Take care, guys.